So welcome to the WordPress workshop for this quarter. I appreciate all of you being here with me, and I'm glad to see some folks who I know have been working through WordPress recently. So I'm hoping we'll cover some content that is new and exciting for you. Here is our agenda for the day. So we'll talk about WordPress login security. That's our main focus for today, and some steps you can take to make your websites more secure. I'm also going to talk about updating the link to the STLS database page that many of you are using on your websites, and I'll cover the list of approved plugins that you should have installed on your library website. And we'll end with plenty of time for questions. As I said, I know there are folks on the call who are new to WordPress or have been working through WordPress issues recently with consultations with me, so I want to be sure there's plenty of time for you to ask any questions you have. So let's start with login security, and more specifically, security breaches and hacks that we see at STLS. So in a typical week, we get 120 notifications of WordPress login failures at STLS. And that's not just folks who are trying to log into their library websites and accidentally entering the wrong password. There is certainly some of that. Of course, that happens. Maybe your username or password you didn't save it, you can't remember, so you're trying to log in. But those 120 attempts are also coming from bots and hackers that crawl the internet and attempt to log into websites so that they can hack them. And it does take 20 incorrect login attempts to lock an account. So if, for example, you were to try to get into your WordPress admin site and you just kept trying to enter the wrong username and password, if you did that 20 times, you'd be locked out of your account. Similarly, if a bot or a hacker enters the wrong username and password on your website 20 times, the account will be locked and you will not be able to access your library's website. STLS can help with that, and you should submit a help desk request or call 528 if you experience this issue. But that is what it takes to get logged out of your site. So each of those 120 notifications that we receive each week about login failures is generated by an account that has had 20 failed login attempts with incorrect credentials. And that means that we experience about 2,400 total attempts each week to take over a library's WordPress account, which is a lot. And the good news is that we have measures in place that are helping secure our library websites, and we'll talk about things you can make sure you're already doing on your library website to prevent any of those attempts from being successful. So there is good news. As I said, there are steps we can take to prevent hacking and being locked out of our library websites. The first thing that we recommend is that you install and configure the Wps Hide Login plugin. So in most cases, we'll find that STLS has already done this for you. We've already installed the plugin and configured it. It's set up and it's running effectively. But today I'll go over, just to be sure, how to find that plugin, how to make sure it's configured properly, and then if it's not installed on your library website, I'll talk about the steps you can take to install it and set it up. Second, we'll talk about how you can edit each of the WordPress users that have access to your library website to give each of them a unique user nickname. So that's different from their username. The nickname is just that, a nickname that will replace their username in a public display of who made that content. That will prevent users' login usernames from being displayed on your library website along with the content that they post, and protect their usernames. And then as a third bonus, we'll go over some password security and talking about how to make secure passwords and how you can keep those passwords safe. It's called Wps Hide Login. And if it's not already installed, I'm going to go over how to install it. And it's a good idea to check and make sure that it is installed on your library website and configured. So I'll also talk about how you can find it on your library website and make sure that it's running. So on the screen, you should see me logged into the dashboard of the Rushford Free Library website. And if you want to follow along while I'm doing this, you are welcome to. You can log into your library website and get to the dashboard. And the first thing we want to do if we're considering making any major changes to our library website, and installing a plugin is considered a major change, is make sure that the library website has been backed up recently using Updraft Plus. And we can see Updraft Plus here in the top menu bar on the far right side. It says Updraft Plus, and when we hover on that, a pop-up menu comes up and we can click on Backup and Restore. And that's going to open the backend of the Updraft Plus plugin and take us to the page where we can see the last time this website was backed up. And the good news is I can see that this website was backed up on August 25th of 2022. I can also see that Rushford has linked this to a Google Drive account, which is great. I worked with them to set up a Google Drive account for their library. and they were able to have these backups run automatically every week and be saved to that Google Drive account. So if something were to happen where their website was to break, we would be able to work with them to access that backup file from their Google Drive account and then help them restore their website to that latest backed up version. If you had made major changes between, for example, August 25th and today, you would want to click the blue Backup Now button here at the top and run a new backup because you want to have the most recent version of your website backed up just in case something breaks. In this case, I'm not actually going to be installing anything on their website today because they already have these plugins set up, so I'm not going to run a new backup. There is a website or a webinar that I did on how to install and run Updraft Plus. I did this last quarter, and I'll post a link to the STLS YouTube channel in the chat. If you want to check out that webinar, you're welcome to do that. I do cover in detail how to set up Updraft Plus, how to have it go send backups to Google Drive, if that's something you're interested in doing. That is a best practice that we recommend, setting that up so that it goes immediately into cloud storage like Google Drive. After we confirm that our website has been backed up, we want to navigate over to the left side menu and find the plugins option in the menu. So that's here. I can see it here, and I'm just going to click on the word plugins. I'm ignoring the pop-out menu. Click on the word plugins, and it's going to load the plugins page and show me all of the plugins that are installed on my library website. And our original mission in coming here was to see if Wps Hide Login was installed and activated. So let's scroll all the way down and find Wps Hide Login. Here it is at the very bottom. We can tell that it's activated because, as you can see with WP Sweep above, it's not activated. It's still giving us the option to activate. But here with WPS Hide Login, the only option is to deactivate, which leads me to understand that this plugin has been activated and is installed. So that's great. That's a first step in the right direction, that this plugin has been installed and is here. But we also need to know whether this plugin is set up correctly. And to do that, we will click on Settings. But before I get there, I just want to cover how you might install this plugin if it was not listed on your library website. To do that, we're going to go over to this left-hand side menu, and you can see the Add New option underneath Plugins. We can also scroll all the way to the top of the Plugins page, and there's a button called Add New here. So I'm going to click here. It's going to take me to the Add New page. And here is the world of plugins. All of the plugins available to you are here in the Add Plugins page. We can see plugins that are already installed. For example, we can see Classic Widgets here is active on our library website. But we want to search for WPS Hide Login as if we didn't already have it installed. So you would punch in the plugin name that you're searching for here, and it will return results. And we can see here that the plugin is active on our library website. If it was not already active on your library website, you would see the option like All-in-One WP Security on the right side here to install now. You would click that, it would install the plugin, and then it would give you the option to activate, and you would click Activate, and it would activate that plugin on your library website. Since we already have this plugin installed, I want to go back to our plugins page by clicking on Plugins in the left side menu and take a look at those settings to make sure it's configured correctly. So here we are back at the plugins page. I'm going to scroll all the way down again to WPS Hide Login, and I'm going to click on Settings. And this is going to open the settings page for the plugin. And in fact, it's actually going to take us to the general settings menu for our website. So if we scroll up, we can see we've been moved to settings within our dashboard. This is general settings for the library website. So we can see the site title, the WordPress address, things like that. And the information we are interested in is all the way down here under WPS Hide Login. And what we want to take a look at and edit if it's not already set up is the login URL, which we can see is set to rushfordfreelibrary.org/login, and then the redirection URL here, which we can see is set to rushfordfreelibrary.org/404. This is the recommended setting that you use. STLS recommends that you set the login URL to your library website URL/login, and that you set the redirection URL to your library URL /404. And after you've made those changes, you would hit Save Changes to make sure that those changes are saved. As I mentioned earlier when I started talking about this plugin, it is very likely that it has already been installed and configured for you on your library website. So just go ahead and log in when you have a chance. Take a look at your plugins page by clicking on Plugins in this left side menu, scrolling down to Wps Hide Login, click on Settings, and make sure it's configured correctly. Now we're going to move on to talking about user nicknames. So in addition to installing the WPS Hide Login plugin, it's a great idea to change the user nicknames that are associated with each of the user IDs that have access to your library website. If you don't give each user ID a user nickname, anytime someone publishes content to your library website, their username that they use to log in to your library website is publicly published. And anybody who is interested in learning a username that could effectively log into your website can find that information. So if you give your username away, you're giving away half of the credentials someone needs to log into your library website, and then all they have to do is guess the right password and they're in. So we can take this step to prevent them from getting this information and make your website more secure. So to do this, we recommend that you set up a unique user nickname for each account that has access to your library website, except for the STLS admin account. So you'll see that STLS does have an admin account on all library websites. We do this because if something happens and your site breaks, we need to be able to get in and help you fix it. And we've already taken this step, so please do not make any changes or edits to the STLS admin account. So if you were doing this, you would log into your dashboard, and then we'd go over to the left-hand side menu and look for users. And we can just ignore the pop-out again and click on users on that left-hand side menu, and it will load the users page. And we can see the list of users are displayed on this page as it loads. We can see a generic Rushford admin account, and then also an admin account for one of the Rushford Library trustees. So what we want to do if we're going to assign a nickname to these accounts is to find the user you want to edit in the list here. So let's say we were going to edit the Rushford admin account. We're going to hover on that user and we can click on the word edit. And we're just going to keep scrolling down until we get to the section called name. We can see the role as administrator. That's great. We definitely want somebody to have admin access to this account. And the name of this account has been just generically assigned as Rushford. The spaces that you're looking to edit are nickname here and display name publicly as. So the nickname has already been set up for this, and it is RAL, which is great because that is quite different from the first name or any identifying information of the username or the name of the person here. So the main concern we would have is that the nickname is very different from the username. And then display name publicly as, we can see there are three options. We do not want the display name publicly to be the same as the username. A vote in favor of assigning the display name publicly as a first name or last name of the person whose account you're editing is, for example, perhaps you have a children's programming person or a children's librarian at your library and they maintain a page dedicated to new books and programming for children at your library. It is possible that your parents are in your community are really familiar with that person and they interact with them when they come to story time and other events at the library. And it might be nice for them to see that the children's person is making edits to that content on that page. So I wouldn't necessarily advocate against displaying their name here as the display name. Just make sure that their nickname is different from their name or their username. And when you're done making changes, you can click on Update User at the bottom to save any changes that you've made. I also want to make a note for folks, I do get this question fairly often. If you have administrative access to your library website, you do have the power to add and remove users from your site. So if we go back over here in the left side menu and I click on users, it's going to load that users page with a list of everybody who has access. If I wanted to remove someone, for example, if this trustee left the board, I could click delete on their account and it would remove that account. If you have a staff member who leaves, you do want to remove their access. You don't want folks who are not associated with the library anymore to have access to your library website. And the same goes with a new staff person. If you have somebody who you wish would have access to the account so that they, or to your website so they can make changes or add content, whatever it may be, you could come here and click Add New up at the top here by users and add a new user to your library website. And make sure you give them a nickname after you set up their account. So another way to keep your site secure is to create a strong, secure password. It's one of your best defenses against hacking. So for any online account that you have, you should use a unique password that you don't use anywhere else. I know it's common to recycle passwords, but that's not a great practice, and we really do encourage you to have unique passwords for every online account that you have. It's especially the case for your library website. This is a place that you really want to have something unique and strong and secure. So rather than using just a simple password, you could consider creating a unique passphrase. Those are even more secure than passwords. They are longer and more complex, but they can be easier to remember. And then also on the flip side, they're more difficult to guess. We'll dive in a little bit deeper to the differences between passwords and passphrases next. So as I mentioned, passphrases are longer, more complex, and they're more difficult to guess. So they're a great choice if you want to keep your site secure and your login credentials secure. And there are many ways you can go about creating a passphrase, but I've got two methods here on the screen. So method A is to convert a phrase to an acronym. So you could choose a phrase that you can remember and then reduce it to the first letters of each word and then work in some numbers and capitalization and punctuation. So if you can see on the screen, the password that they've chosen is capital M, CCIG, colon, capital I, lowercase ig, comma, web, question mark. That means nothing to me. It's very difficult to guess. It's a very seemingly random combination of letters and characters. The way that this person came up with this password is from the sentence, mint chocolate chip ice cream, colon, if it isn't green, comma, why even bother, question mark. And we can see how they've taken the elements of that sentence and made them into a passphrase by pulling the first letter of each word and any punctuation used. On the right-hand side, they use a second method called unique phrase. So in this case, they've picked 4 to 5 letters. And for this example, they've chosen capital M, capital I, capital S, capital L, and then made a phrase using words that start with each of those letters. And then they've added numbers or punctuation if it made sense. So the 2 examples they've come up with using those letters include Miami, exclamation point, exclamation point. It sounds lovely. And you can see where they've pulled the capital M, capital I, capital S, capital L. And you can see the same reflected in the second option, which is baby includes small lobsters, question mark. These are kind of funny. I really like reading passphrase examples, like especially maybe include small lobsters. It sort of makes me laugh. And you might even be able to remember that your password for the WordPress dashboard at your library is maybe include small lobsters, question mark, because it's kind of funny and it's a sentence instead of a combination of random letters and characters generated. Even this mint chocolate chip ice cream, colon, if it isn't green, comma, why even bother? You could remember that sentence and the punctuation used and type in those characters appropriately. If that sounds overwhelming and trying to remember, especially if you have a unique passphrase for every online account that you have, which is probably hundreds if you really sit down and think about how many you might have, that's understandable. And there are ways to manage your passwords. And the one that we recommend is called Lastpass. You can see a screenshot of Lastpass on the screen. This is a password locker where you can store your usernames and passphrases that you've created for your different online accounts. There is a free version of this program, and using this program allows you to create one single username and passphrase for your password locker with LastPass, where you put in those credentials to access your password locker, and then it stores all of your username and passphrases for your accounts that you use online. And when you're logged in an internet browser, if you navigate to a website that you want to log into, it will automatically populate the username and password for you, or you can go to LastPass and copy them into the place that you're trying to access at that time. So if you can remember just your username and passphrase for LastPass, then you'll get access to your password safe and have access to all of these nice, unique, complicated passphrases that you've created for your accounts across the internet. Another nice feature of LastPass is that it can automatically generate secure passwords for you, which can help if you begin to struggle to think of new unique passwords to keep your account safe. Many of you on your library websites linked directly to the STLS databases page. On that page, you would find links to databases like JobNow and Peterson's Test Prep and the Novel New York databases, and then other resources provided through local and state funding. So if you do link to the STLS databases page, I recently updated that page to use a LibGuide to display the information. I feel like it's a little bit better for users and easier to navigate. And I'll post a link to that new LibGuide in the chat. So what you'll need to do is update anywhere that you link directly to the databases page, the old databases page on the STLS website, and replace that link with this new link to the LibGuides. So as you have time, I would encourage you to please just take a moment to look at any place where you might be linking to the STLS databases page and update that link to the LibGuides link. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to talk about it. One thing I do want to mention is that the widgets that I installed when we got access to JobNow and Peterson's Test Prep on the home pages or on the sidebar of your library website, those are still functioning appropriately. This does not impact that link, so you do not need to make changes to the JobNow and Peterson's Test Prep widgets on your library website. Those are still fine. So I do occasionally get requests from member libraries about adding new plugins, or you might reach out for help with your website because something has broken and it's not working anymore. And I'll find out that there's a whole group of embedded plugins that have been installed on your website, and one of them is causing your site to not load properly or to be broken in some way. It is often the case that plugins cause issues on websites through WordPress. Plugins are free to install, which is really great. They are powerful. They do very good things for our library websites. Updraft Plus allows us to create backups so that if we need a backup of our website, we can get it. Wps Hide Login allows us to hide and change the login URL so that it's not so easy for hackers to guess. Those are great and powerful things, but plugins are created by developers and posted to the WordPress plugins database for free. And that means that some of them are not always compatible with the version of code like PHP that we're running on our library websites, not compatible with the latest version of WordPress, maybe not fully developed or as fully developed as they need to be, or just not compatible with the theme that you're running. So because this is a common problem and your website is easily broken by a plugin, we at STLS maintain a list of plugins that we have vetted and we know will work on your websites without causing your site to break. So on the screen, you can see the list of plugins that we've pre-approved. This hasn't changed much if you've been at STLS for a long time. These plugins have been around. We continue to see success with these and find that they continue to work with the versions of WordPress as WordPress updates. So we're quite happy with them. But if there is a plugin that you hear about or you find that you feel like you want to use, or there's something you wish your website would do or look like, and you think a plugin is the way to make that happen, feel free to email us. And if you know what plugin it is that you're interested in, include that information and we can take a moment to review that plugin and see whether or not it might be appropriate for installation without causing any damage to your site. You can submit that through a help desk request, or you can send me an email and I'll work to figure out with IT staff whether or not it will be successful for your site. The plugins that are on the screen here that have a little asterisk next to them and are in that blue outline are plugins that we install and maintain on your site. So please don't delete them or edit their settings. Most of them are doing work to help your website run quickly and efficiently and also securely. So we just ask that you let them run quietly in the background and not make any changes. And if you do find that your website is missing any of these plugins and you need help setting them up or installing them, or if it's something that I've indicated STLS should set up and install, just submit a help desk request and we'll be happy to get them set up for you. How do we update links for database? Yeah, Jesse, that's a great question. So let me go to a live, maybe I'll look at your website and see how you are linking. So we're on the Cohocton website, and under resources, you've got databases here. So let's see, I'm imagining that this is meant to link directly to the STLS page, and we can see it's generating a 404 error. So the way to update that is through the appearance menu, because that is, let me just take you back. This is a menu. This whole thing here is your library website menu, and resources is a part of the menu, and then databases is a sub part of that resources menu item. So to edit your library website menus, we want to navigate to Appearance. We'll hover on that, and in the pop-out menu, we can click on Menus. and that's going to open the menus on the library website. And we are currently looking at the Rushford website, but it will function similarly, Jesse, to how your library website would function. And so we can see here that we can edit the links that are being used. So in your case, the databases page is going to be a custom link. And what you could do rather than editing the existing page is just grab the link that I gave you or go to the STLS website and take it from our website and paste it here. So you can see I pasted in https://stls.libguides.com/databases. That's the new URL. And we're going to type in database. And I'm doing this under custom link on the left-hand side. I'll click add to menu. It's going to add this fresh link here at the very bottom. So here it is, and it's quite far down, which is fine, but I could move it up within the menu structure. So you would find your old databases page and move this to be near it and then remove the old one. So if you want to remove a page, you just click the little down arrow and hit remove. So you would pull out the one that links to the old STLS database page. You'd remove it and then move this page into the place where you'd like it to be. And since Rushford didn't ask me to install this, I'm going to go ahead and remove that page and hit the save. Jesse, I see your question. The slider, I understand the slider is restrictive to readers. What do you suggest changing daily events or posts to? I really appreciate you asking about that. And I know a slider is great for giving that eye-catching movement for most folks, but as you mentioned, it's not accessible, especially for screen readers and even folks who have low vision. It can be distracting as it's sliding and moving past. There is not a similarly movement-oriented option that meets accessibility needs. Instead, what I recommend is just updating content in your home page. So whether that, typically what that would mean is stacked content within the home page. Let's take a look at an example of that. So we'll go to the Pages menu here on the Rushford site. It does require that you pay more attention to your site. So maybe that's monthly, if that feels like an achievable goal, making edits and posting some photos and information about programs that you have coming up. The new WordPress editor, and I say new, it's obviously it's been out for a couple of years now, but the block editor does make it a little bit easier than the previous version of the WordPress editor to make your homepage look attractive. What I suggest as you move away from a slider is that you do advertise your upcoming events on the homepage, or photos of a really cool event or kids crafts or something. We don't want your website to become a repository for images. Facebook is really the best place for that. But if you have a great eye-catching image from a craft that kids recently did at your library, Jesse, you could feature that and just put up a little post about how that went and then advertise upcoming events that you have. And blocks that are effective, I think, for making your homepage look attractive are, so the gallery option is a good one. What that means is that we can have multiple images displayed side by side, so 3 by 3 in rows. We could have an attractive array of images and you can caption each one, so that's a good option. If we don't like the gallery, you can also add a new block and divide a portion of the page into columns. That's another option. So here's the columns option. So you could have side-by-side content that way if that's appealing, instead of having just a massive block of content. If there's a video of a story time that you've posted on YouTube, you can embed a YouTube video directly by choosing the YouTube block. Media and text allows for an image and text side by side. That can be attractive and nice to look at as well. So I would recommend just taking some time to scroll through the different blocks that are available and playing around with how each of those looks to make your homepage look more attractive without using that moving slider. There are also some libraries that change their homepage And rather than having it function as a stagnant or static, they call it on WordPress a static homepage, they have it display blog posts. So then every time you publish a new blog post, it populates to the top of the page. It kind of functions the same way as you going in and adding these new blocks. Something that I don't love about the blog posts as the homepage is that it shows the blog post title and then who created it and the date created. And I think it just makes it look a little more choppy. But so I would advocate for using blocks to achieve the same effect. You could essentially write a new blog post in every block. And I'll just use this silence as a moment to plug Canva. If you guys are not familiar, I'm thinking everybody on the call might be familiar with it, but Canva is a free program where you can make really attractive graphics or just edit photos. You can remove the background now, I think. It's a fun tool to make flyers, to make graphics for social media or your library website, all kinds of things, presentations. It's probably the most used tool for me in my day-to-day job. I really like it, and I encourage you, if you haven't tried it out, to check it out. It's a great free option for creating designy things. On average, how much time do libraries dedicate a week to updating content on their website? Denise, that is a great question. I have no guess for you at how much time libraries dedicate to updating content on their website. I really think it depends on the size of the library and whether or not folks have a staff member who is assigned to that task, or if it falls to the director who is also wearing every other hat at the library or most of the other hats at the library. I feel like if you're at this workshop, you're a person who's interested in updating your library website content at least fairly regularly. And I would say it should certainly be done at least quarterly, if not monthly. And if you can pop in and check on it weekly, that's pretty awesome. I don't know that how often your patrons are coming to your library websites. You could use Google Analytics to see that. And it also might depend on if that's their primary way of accessing something like StarCat or Overdrive. If they don't know the StarCat link or haven't bookmarked it, then they probably are coming to your library website to click on the StarCat link. And it might be a great way to capture the attention of a patron who is using StarCat and maybe picking up books, but they're not coming to any programs. If they are coming and getting that StarCat link from a widget on the sidebar of your homepage, and you have a graphic up and a blurb about a really cool new program that you're offering, you might capture that person's attention and gain someone new at your programming. So it can be a really effective tool for connecting with your public.